The opportunity to vote on creating an entity that can handle gifts and investments in DeBary far into the future. It is a privilege to consider whether we can set the stage for positive contributions to our city outside of tax revenues for decades to come. Thank you for the efforts of those who have worked to bring us to this juncture and guide us as we think about how to move forward. As we consider all the matters before us this evening, grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we may make the best decisions for those who have chosen us to represent them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is the regular City Council meeting for the month of March. City Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Sell?
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Here.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Here.
Mayor Chazet?
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Here. Being the first meeting of the month, we have time for public participation on items not on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and you will see our public participation outline tells you how your comments may be received, and they're outlined for you on the screen. When I call your name, come up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, please. Mark Henley.
Do I need to push a button or just start talking?
Just start talking.
Mark Henley, I've lived in DeBary for 40 years. I live at 263 Ponce Lane. I have a traffic issue. So at the corner of Floridana and High Banks, Duke Energy came in and put telephone poles, which created a blind spot. So going down the hill, there's a Presbyterian church here. So if you know where the location's at, and there's children that come down on bicycles. There's been several accidents there. I think something needs to be resolved. I can show you the pictures, and I think I've made my point. So the next people can get the chance.
I need you to speak into the mic just to say that what you just said there, because we
Oh, I'm
couldn't have it
sorry.
on the record.
I just gave him a few pictures of that Floridana and High Banks.
Okay.
So I made my point, so the next people
Thank you.
can speak. That's it.
Thank you. Yvette Best.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and City Manager. I'm here tonight in support of the new DeBary School. Our city is in desperate need of schools for our ever-growing family community. I was at the January 15th meeting when you all rejected the Spring Vista site without wanting to listen to the reasons why the Buckley site was not approved for the pre-K through 8 grade school. All our area cities have many schools and continue to build even more. Do we really want to be known as the only city in Volusia County to have only one school? Most of what I heard on the January 15th meeting was how parents and kids would cause more problems for our town and how nobody wanted them around, or that the Volusia County school system didn't plan ahead for schools. So my questions to you all are, why are we the only city in Volusia County having problems planning with Volusia County School Board to build a school? Where in our comprehensive plan are schools planned for? How are we going to overcome our finger pointing and approve a location for the school that'll meet the state guidelines and the needs of our DeBary children? Do you plan to annex DeBary neighborhoods as part of Orange City or Deltona based on the new school location? We have a limited amount of time and limited land to appropriate for a DeBary school. What you do with our city will make what our city is all about. Do we want to be known as a city with only one school, or as a city who values education? Please work on solving this important matter before time runs out. Thank you.
Thank you. Jamie Haynes.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here and allowing me to speak. My name is Jamie Haynes, and I'm here first to speak on behalf of myself. I have lived in DeBary for 38 years. I have been visiting DeBary for 48 years, 10 years prior to moving here. DeBary is my home. It's where I raised my own children, and it's a community that I absolutely love. But during the time I've lived here, as I've shared with some of you, or you may have heard from board meetings, I actually, as a teacher and a parent, walked the streets to get signatures to build DeBary Elementary. I did the same thing in hopes we would have a high school, but that was not passed. Here we are, and I've been working on this project since I got on the school board. And you started approving more townhomes, apartments, and houses. But long before that, as I said when we were here on January 15th, this problem was not created by the 5 of you sitting here on the council, nor was it created by the 5 of us currently sitting on the school board. What I really don't understand, though, is how a comp plan can be written all these years and never include another school. We have shared additional information with you. I thank Mr. Carmen Rosamondo for coming and meeting with us on February 6th. We gave him very detailed information that we weren't allowed to share at the January 15th meeting. We're down to one location right now that we can build the school on in the time in which we have to build it based on the funding we have. But in the meantime, all of the families that live in DeBary, they pay part of their property taxes towards education. And everyone that's built a home here, or even those that have built the apartment complexes, have paid impact fees. But that money's not been used here to build a school. I'm asking you to reconsider. I'm asking each and every one of you to allow us an opportunity, if you'll come and meet with our team, hear about the 264-page engineering report, the cost, the fact that the DOE will not approve where you would like for us to build the school, and I'd like you to reconsider allowing us to build on the Spring Vista site so that we can bring all elementary children back into DeBary to be educated, as well as more than half of our middle school students. I wish we could do more than that. Please understand, if not, we'll be looking north into Orange City or east into Deltona. There are already schools in those communities, and our transportation costs will once again increase, and they're only funded at 40 to 50% by the state. It's a partially funded mandate. And there is a new House bill you need to pay attention to that will also talk about surplus property. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Lynch.
Thank you. And Mayor, I'm going to be representing my group,
Okay,
so nobody else is going to speak from the group. So
okay.
thank you. My name's Stephen Lynch. I live at 23 Hollow Pine Drive, and I'm the HOA president for DeBary Woods. And I have a PowerPoint presentation. Thank you, City Manager, for allowing me to show it. Appreciate it. It basically boils down to this. We have an issue with the pump station behind our homes. All the residents that it's currently affecting the most are here in the front row. It's important to them, it's important to me that we get some more communication going about this. Our ask is simple. It's on the screen. If you have to run the pump, don't run it at 2 a.m., okay? My neighbors are getting woken up at 2 a.m. for no reason. If you have to run the pump, also, it's my understanding that there are 2 pumps in the pump station. If I'm wrong, correct me. If you run 1 pump at a time, it reduces the vibrations in the ground. And we'll get to the vibrations in a minute. And then for a long-term solution, it's my understanding this would be a way more costly solution, but to isolate the pump. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, thanks.
The clock messes with it. So.
Okay, I'll just ask you to go to the next slide. So there's the pump station. My house is the little marker there, and then we have the other homes there. It's pretty close. So if you're standing next to the pump when it's running, you don't hear anything. There's not a noise directly from the pump issue. Okay, so the pump is, and what's attached to the pump, which I'm assuming are huge pipes, they're vibrating the ground. And the vibrations, I mean, it doesn't feel like an earthquake or anything. It's not, but it's vibrating our homes. And it's causing the homes to create their own kind of frequency. It's almost like the homes are like an instrument. And you can be, like some of my neighbors have pointed out to me, you can be sleeping on one side of the bed and hear it, and your spouse next to you can't. Okay, it's a very weird issue. It's a very weird problem. And so if you go out to the site when it's running, you're not going to experience what we're experiencing when we're trying to sleep. Can we go to the next slide, please? We'll see if this will play.
Sorry, hang on one second. Let me turn that.
Yeah, we have time. Thanks.
On my stovetop because the pump is running tonight. Doesn't that sound nice? How would you like that at your house every day?
Okay, now obviously that's in the kitchen, and we're not going to sleep with pots and pans next to our bed, but there's really no good way to have you experience this issue because of the nature of it. It's very low frequency. I've seen some communication from the city about possibly building a wall. I understand this is all exploratory. We're not sure really where the issue is coming from, why it's vibrating like this, but we know that a wall is not going to help. If you put a wall between the pump and the house, there's no sound issue, like I said. It's going to vibrate the ground. Next slide, please. Here are all of my proposed solutions for right now. Add a timer, okay? We understand we need the pump, okay? We're appreciative of the pump during hurricane season, during when the water is high behind our home. Thank you for keeping our houses high and dry. I want to, make that a point. We're appreciative of it. But not at 2 a.m. and not in January when there's no hurricane in the forecast. When it's hurricane season, guys, run it wide open. Run everything you got, okay, to prepare for the hurricane and to mitigate the after effects. But why do we need to do it at 2 a.m.? Now, I understand there's like a float sit situation. When the water rises to a certain level, the pump kicks on. But why can't we have a timer in the system where if the float switch turns on and it's 2 a.m., that it doesn't run until the morning? To me, this doesn't sound like a $100,000 solution. This sounds like a very reasonable ask. I'm not an engineer. Don't pretend to be one. But this just makes sense. Next slide, please. Once again, our ask. Number one, we want to sleep, okay? We don't like to miss sleep. It's been described as torture to me by some of our neighbors, okay? They don't know when the pump's going to turn on. Like I said, it's a float switch. Whenever the water reaches a certain point, when is that going to be? Is the pump going to turn on tonight? You guys can't tell us. We don't know. So imagine going to sleep every night and not knowing, hey, am I going to be woken up by this weird noise? Do I have to go sleep in the guest room again? And before we communicated what we knew about it to our neighbors, they thought, hey, there's bees in our attic, or there's other issues. So appreciate your attention on the subject, and you guys know where to find us if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager, do you have any brief response?
Well, we're working on it. as he's correct, there are two pumps there. Generally, they don't both turn on until there's an actual flooding situation. One pump turns on, and ever since probably December, I would beg to say that our pumps, only one pump's been running because of the FDOT has been pumping down into DeBerry Plantation. So yeah, it is gravity fed. The pumps do turn on based upon that float system. We'll take a look and see if there's a timer mechanism that can be installed in there and how it would work with a floating system. I'm not sure. But we've had Hydro Services out there, which is our pump vendor. We've looked at the possibility of creating a rubber boot somehow. They don't manufacture those. We're looking, and so they recommended us hiring a seismic analyst consultant. And that's difficult to say. Seismic analyst consultant. And these are folks that would take a look at these particular vibrations and see how to curb them to where they don't go past a certain point or to absorb some of the vibration. And so we're on the hunt for a seismic analyst consultant. Typically, they're in earthquake-prone areas, but we believe that we can find one and get some idea of what we can do to reduce the vibration. And so we're working on it. As soon as we get a hold of a seismic analyst consultant, then we'll do that particular study. Whatever they recommend, we may have to customize or manufacture some type of system in the ground. I'm not exactly sure, but we're working on it and we're trying to find a solution. So we'll also take a look at the timer aspect of it and how that works with the float system. I am not sure if that's capable of operating that type of dual function. But only one pump's been running. I don't anticipate pumps been running for quite some time now. FDOT stopped pumping in February 17th, and so there's no more additional water in there unless it's some rain. Again, we don't really control when it turns on and off as the system is designed. But we'll look at to see what kind of timer system can work with a float system. I don't know if it can or not. And then we'll work on getting the seismic analyst consultant to see if we can have some idea of how we can do this vibration. We know that most of the vibration occurs at startup as the, and this is what came from a Hydro Services. When it primes, there is that vibration when it primes for the first 30 seconds. And then obviously this is a lot of water. It pumps 12 million gallons a day when it's in full operation. So it's pretty big pumping system. And we'll see what we can do to try to minimize the vibration going sideways.
Thank you. Chris Bowman.
Hello, my name is Chris Bowman. I live at 56 Sackett Road, and I am currently let's see if I can remember how we say this, the chairman of the board of directors for the Orlandia Heights Neighborhood Improvement District. That's a mouthful. We've got a map up on the screen that shows the district back there. I've been on the board for more than 20 years. I've been around as long as the paving has been back there. We've got 12 miles of paving back there. We've got 400 residents. And the residents paid for all of this. This isn't pavement. This isn't typical pavement. It's a real thin, low traffic surfacing that we put down there, and we just keep it up every year. The thing that we're having problems with is the little lake right in the center of this. And if you want to flip to the next one there, please. This little lake, this was taken back in 1999. Google Earth is real good about doing this stuff. Sackett Road is the top road on the top. Community is the one on the right, and on the left is lake. This lake sits there, and it's a spring-fed lake. It's been there forever. And if you want to send the next picture, please. For between 2000 and 2004, it's always sat small. It is spring-fed, so it stays full. It doesn't empty out ever. But it seems like when we get to hurricane, go ahead and switch, please. There we go. Back when we got the hurricanes in 2005, Charlie, Francis, and Jean, there were 3 Cat 5 hurricanes. It swelled up that lake a little bit. Groundwater did affect it, but again, it's a spring-fed lake, so it's going to have water in it all the time. The groundwater just exacerbated that. If you want to take the next one. Again, between 2009 and 2022, the lake stayed nice and low, no problems back there, but we didn't have any hurricanes. So again, it's a spring-fed lake. It's going to stay with water all the time. It just doesn't swell up. Now, in between all those roads, there's 8 houses back there that are around that lake. Go ahead, the next one, please. Recently, it's gotten worse. In the last couple of years, it has flooded over. And if you want to go to the next one, on the north end of the lake, there's a road up there. Community is a foot underwater, has been for 3 months. That's a problem. The road on the left, Sackett, it was a foot, or not a foot, 6 inches underwater. Both of them have had damage to the road. Both of them we can solve, but we have to elevate the roads to do that. In order to do that, there's 400 feet on Community that's a foot underwater for 3 months. The access to the house right there is non-existent, so emergency vehicles can't get to that house. In order to elevate this road, to get it out of the problem, you're going to have 500 foot of road, 16 feet wide, 12 to 18 inches tall, and it's going to cost about $75,000 to correct this. Sackett has the same problem. It's going to cost another $25,000 to do that. In the meantime, we've had a few $1,000s each on each road that are damages right now that we've incurred. Now, when we understand there's a lot of groundwater back there, but the spring-fed lake contributes to that too, so I don't think groundwater escalates it this much. If you go to the next, on the south end of the lake, there's a berm that's been built. And in fact, it's called a a dirt barrier. That it's 200 feet long, it's more than 6 feet tall. And I understand this resident has built that to keep the house dry, because otherwise the water would eat that house up. In the meantime, that has exacerbated the problems around the lake. Excuse me here a second. If this happens, and I go to the roads and I start elevating the roads, it's going to become a contest between the residents around this lake to see who's going to keep the water out of their property. We just can't keep doing that. We've got to solve the problem with the roads. If we go to the next problem, we got another problem back there. We got a dump truck out there. One of the residents back there had water in his property, called the city engineer. The city engineer supposedly told him to pump the water into his dump truck and drive down on Catalina, one of our roads, and dump the water. Makes no sense. This is at 9:15 p.m. There's been a police deputy involved with this. They're the ones that told us about the city engineer having something to do with this. If we go to the next picture. One more, I'm sorry, we got two. The damage to the roads up there, we got about $3,000 worth of damage from this, and we don't know who to get this money from, but it's a damage that's happened to us, and we want to know what to do about it. If we stop there and go to that other page that I have, please.
Well, you can give them one more time, because we had a delay putting the slides up.
This is what it looks like today. Again, it's swelled, and we've got problems. We've got 13 affected properties around there, all totaling more than $8 million worth of real estate in those 13 properties. Given the numerous challenges we have here, is there a way to get an overflow provision in that lake and get it pumped out somewhere where it's reasonable to do so? Because right now, I can't fix the roads, or if I do fix the roads, I'm going to have a problem with other people around that lake because I'm going to be a problem raising the water for them. And I'm not sure that's the right thing to do. So what I'm looking for is some help from y'all, some guidance, something to get the water in this lake down, because in the meantime, I've got 2 roads that can't get driven on part of the year, and that can't happen. And I've got 1 house that you can't even get emergency vehicles to. So we have some problem. Generally, we take care of the roads back there. We do a pretty good job of it, but right now, this is more than we can handle, and I'm looking for some help.
Thank you. I also live on a private road where we have to solve our own issues, and it is a challenge. We also don't have HOA. I don't think you have an HOA either. And we do not have an improvement association. So I feel your pain. I've dealt with it in not this exact circumstance. But I would like to ask the city manager if you have any additional input you could provide here at the meeting. I know it's something you've worked on for some time with Mr. Bowman.
Mr. Bowman and I met last week, and as a result of our meeting there, I wanted to just bring this topographical map to this particular area. And it has been a problem. Every hurricane, it does bring a certain amount of water. No homes flood, and
One has been eaten already. 1 house on that property has been eaten already, and it's been demolished. And it's
that was 20-something years ago.
That was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, okay. And so, but other than that, there hasn't been any homes flood. But the topography of this here is that this is the lowest part of the entire subdivision. Everything flows to this particular lake. As you can see, the arrows there. All the way surrounding this particular lake is elevation 80. You see 80 all the way around this particular lake, and the lake's at 35. And there was one inquiry about the burrow pit. Our burrow pit, the bottom of our burrow pit is 20 feet high elevation. And between that and the lake is 80 feet crest between that and the lake. So unfortunately, for every hurricane, this is a particular issue. And I took your slides that you provided me there. And if you don't mind, bring the next slide up. And so I compared the 3 of what happened during each hurricane season. And as I told the council during our presentation, Hurricane Milton was, and the 3 hurricanes that we had this season have far exceeded the rainfall of any hurricane season we've ever had. And they're very similar to what you see here. And yes, it does crest Community Drive, and it did crest in Community Drive during Charlie and Francis. But they're very similar. And so it is every hurricane in this bowl, it comes to this particular location. And we don't have anything in our strategic plan to put an overflow valve here or any place really to kind of take it, maybe to the burrow pit. But it's going to take a lot through private property to do that, and it's going to take years to get that accomplished, unfortunately.
We also have easements that we.
Okay, it's not going to be, sir, it's not a back and forth. You had your presentation. I'm giving him the opportunity to respond, and then we will continue.
And so it's every hurricane. I'm sorry that exists that way, but they're pretty similar, and we'll continue to monitor it and see what we can do. But every hurricane, it's going to be the same. These 3 hurricane seasons are very similar, and this lake, unfortunately, because of the topographical area around there, all the water is going to go to this particular lake.
I know that in some circumstances, having been in the situation myself, that the city was able to give some advice. Couldn't do anything because it's private, but could give us some advice. And so is there anything that the city could do to consult with Mr. Bowman's association as far as advice relating to the 2 roads?
Well, we met with some folks out there on Community Drive. We caution anybody who raises that. The lady that put the berm there, we have a meeting with St. John's Water Management District this week, and And so we're going to ask St. John's if they filled in wetlands on their particular property. And so that resident's going to have to answer whether or not they put that fill in wetlands or not. If they did, then obviously St. John's will enforce that. As far as the road is concerned or raising the road, you know, our obvious concern is that you push the water in another direction. And therefore, if you raise the road up, let's say 5 or 6 feet, and it pushes the water south or east and floods somebody out, we always warn residents on private property who are dealing with other private property to be careful and be considerate of liability. Because if they raise the road and flood somebody out, that creates a possible liability. And so we always caution folks doing stuff on their own because of the effects of what they do can do that. As far as pumping this or anything else, we'll have to take a look at it and see what we can do through private roads. And in my mind, the only way we can do it is take it up to the borough pit. But again, it's going to have to be a manual system to try to do that. And you got a lot of roads to cross. And so it's going to be very complex.
Thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is the approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2025, and the special meeting for February 19th, 2025.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. This evening, we have 2 presentations for the council, the first being the Rotary Club of DeBary, Deltona, and Orange City, and I believe that Joe Hearn and Pat Northey will be presenting.
And now it's you two. All right. Good evening, community of DeBary, Mayor Chazet, Vice Mayor Butlin, councilman, and city manager and team. I'm excited always to talk about Rotary. I think it's amazing that what Rotary does in our communities, but it's also important that we inform our communities of what Rotary does, because a lot of people really don't know how active Rotary is, especially our club. We are very active. We represent 3 different, I got to stay on task. We represent 3 different communities, DeBary, Orange City, and Deltona. We do try to split up our events. We have 2 amazing events right here in the city of DeBary, our amazing run, which we'll talk about here shortly. I think most of you have participated in. We also do a Veterans Appreciation, which is a new initiative that we started a couple years ago. Gene's so proud of it. And it's right here in the city of DeBary, and we're just grateful to have such support from the city and to have you guys attend some of our meetings and stay engaged. Rotary does some amazing things. I do want to take a moment to thank Pat Northey. She did help put the PowerPoint together. So if there is anything that is not appropriate, please talk to Pat about that. And secondly, I want to recognize just some of our members from our club tonight are here. So please wave, everybody. Our president-elect, Anne Cartier, is here, and so is our president-elect-elect. So it's wonderful. All right, is this just going to rotate, or did I push a button?
No, it's on a timer.
So I have to talk fast? Where's the beginning? Oh, right here. Is this where I'm supposed to be? All righty. Our theme this year is the magic of Rotary. Every year, Rotary has a theme for the year. The president of Rotary International chooses that theme. Is there a way to not have the timer and I can click it? Pat, I talk fast, but not that fast. I can wing it.
I'll pause it after every slide so that you have better control.
You're the man. With that said, Rotary has X amount of numbers of members. I think it was 1.4 million. 1.4 million. Our local club itself is about 46. We've really grown, and we have 3 honorary members, but we've really grown in the last few years, and we are continuing to grow. Our goal as a unit is really to, at some point, see a downtown DeBary club and an Orange City club. There's so much good that comes from Rotary. We're really engaged in youth. So we're really trying to promote our Interact programs. We're trying to get one set up in Orange City with University as well as our other high schools, because we really think, our tomorrow depends on them. So we're very, very youth involved. We meet every, I'm going to have to jump around because I don't, oh, he's pausing this one. Let's talk about our give back. So as a small club with 46 people, we raise a lot of money for the community. They usually cut me off and say, Joe, we're not giving this one and this one and this one, because I would give it all away because it's a good thing and it helps others. But our Rotary Club is made up of volunteers, and all these volunteers really work in our communities to bring awareness to the work that we do, but also to help volunteer to do some amazing events to help us raise money, to give back to youth scholarships, presidential charity awards, which is just various different organizations that I, get the privilege of choosing. Community donations and contributions. We'll have things happen. We just heard about a little bit of flooding. Things happen with a family. They need support or help in one of our communities. And we get that call and we step up and rise to the challenge. Youth initiatives, Rotary Foundation contributions, speaker honorariums. Overall, we give a lot of money back throughout the year. You can change that slide if you don't mind. Thank you for your help. Secondly, our avenues of service for Rotary is club service, vocational service, community service, international service, and I can't read that bottom one. New generation service. And we really do engage. We just adopted our first school this year. Our goal is to adopt a school in each of our communities and really support some of the things that maybe education can't cover or things that we can do to enhance it. One of the programs we did with Sunrise Elementary is we started a student of the month and a teacher of the month, and we're hoping to do the same thing here in DeBary and Orange City as well. Next slide, please. Okay. And I'm not sure what that says, Pat.
Diversity.
Diversity. We have a really just everybody's welcome at our Rotary Club. We have just a lot. We have a majority. We are women in our club. Not me, but we are a majority, and everyone's welcome. Everyone is welcome. We have such a diverse from age. We're really trying to attract the next generation, as I talked about. The problem is you have the younger couples that just have babies. They're forced to take their kid to school. I know that's not why you're not in Rotary, but they have to take their kid to school. They got to get to work. That 7:30 doesn't always work. So we're really getting creative with that, and we have a really open-minded president-elect, and we're going to probably talk about different ways we can do this. One thing we started 2 years ago is we do a monthly social. So we have a meeting every Thursday morning at 7:30. However, sometimes it's easier for someone just to stop by, Central 21 and grab a beer. 28. That's the alarm company, and we've done a few socials there, and it's easier just to stop by there, grab a beer after work, and that's how we're really trying to attract that next generation and get the younger, newly married couples, young kids involved, because there's great ways to do it. But we're also talking about some other creative ways. Next slide, please. Okay, Polio Plus eradication program. Pat, I'm going to bring you up to talk a little bit about that.
I love this, man. Okay, this is a worldwide program that Rotary does across the globe, and so most of you know Rotary is a worldwide organization, and they are just cases away from eradicating polio, and it's mostly over in the Afghanistan area is where they saw some cases of polio. And what they do, and I'm just going to read this, is when we talk about Polio Plus, we know we are eradicating polio, but we are adding many benefits. The plus is something else that is provided as part of the polio eradication campaign. It may be hand-operated tricycle or access to water. It might be additional medical treatment, bed, nets, or soap. A 2010 survey study estimates that vitamin A drops, which I didn't know this until I read this, vitamin A drops are given to children at the same time as the Polio Plus vaccine have prevented 1.25 million deaths by decreasing susceptibility to infectious diseases. And we as a club, we give to Polio Plus. That's one of our programs that we give money to. So
Excellent. Thank you, Pat. Okay, next slide. All right, we love our schools. As we talked about, we adopted a school. We've done dictionary giveaways for many, many years, something Bill's very passionate about right here in DeBary and other elementary schools. And we're a very youth-oriented club. We know that there's a lot of young families in the communities that we serve, and investing in those, I think, is an investment in our future. And I think we're all pretty solid on that. Next slide, please. Okay, we sponsor an Interact program. So at Trinity Christian Academy, we have probably one of the most active and largest Interact programs in West Volusia. Those kids can have and help whatever they need. We have a member, Jeanette Hevia. She was actually our Rotarian of the Year last year. She runs that program. They come to speak, and it really just helps instill some great values in those youth and help them to keep the Rotary mission going for many years to come. Easter baskets for Residing Hope, local children's home. We also help provide Easter baskets for Residing Hope and help them with many other things along the way as well. Meet and greet, when a community needs the support of Rotary or the spirit of Rotary, we all know Deltona's gone through some challenges of their own over the years, and so when they got a new city manager, we made it a point to be the in-between. Pat kind of led that charge and just, brought people in the community, sister cities, sister city managers, to just meet and try to get them the best foot forward. Candidate meet and greet. We are non-partisan, so I'm glad we brought that up. We are a non-partisan, non-political Rotary Club. We get reminded of that often in our meetings. And with that said, though, it is important for us to educate people in our community about who's running for office and so forth. So we do host a nonpartisan meet and greet where candidates who might be running for office can come in and just share their platform and so forth. And Boys and Girls Club Trunk or Treat. We really believe in supporting Boys and Girls Club. So they have a local trunk and treat every year. We do some other things for them as well with their end of school year graduation program. One of their members is actually, their club director is actually in our club and very active in our club. So we try to support, again, our youth, especially those that may be a little more in need than others. And we have our other signature fundraiser, which is our Halifax Hops and Vine. It's an event we do every single year. Halifax is the Hops and Vine. Halifax is usually our signature sponsor on that. This year it was probably our best ever Hops and Vine. We just had an amazing turnout. Every year it just elevates. We started right here in the city of DeBary at DeBary Hall, if some of you have been to that. And we have just outgrown the space. So it's a wonderful event. And again, the money that we raise at that event helps us give back to some of the charities that we mentioned. And our veterans right here in the city of DeBary. I know Jean's passionate about that, our little local icon here in DeBary. But we love helping our veterans. Sometimes they're getting a free meal, having a little bit of celebration. Obviously, we're so proud and grateful for the service they put forth for all of us in our country. And it's an opportunity. You have probably one of the most active VFWs, as all of you know, in probably Volusia County and maybe even more than that. And it's really wonderful to bring all of them together and just spoil them. And we just get to have a meal cooked for them. All the Rotarians get to help serve. We pay for the whole thing. And it's a wonderful evening. If you haven't been, you definitely should come to next year. And we do a basket brigade every year, which is putting meals together for families in need during the holidays at Thanksgiving. And our club loves doing this event. Lori Lemoyne is one of our person who chairs this event, and it's another great event and way to give back. All right, and then another great cause, Wreaths Across America, amazing event. It's a national, as many of you have heard about it. We are honored to support that and in our community. And I think this year we're going even bigger with that because it's a beautiful event and it really helps recognize those who really deserve it. Okay, and then we try to stay active in our community. One thing about Rotary is people don't know about Rotary if you're not out there getting stuff done. So we do try to engage in all the Christmas parades. I think this year we're in every Christmas parade. It's always two cities that do it the same day. I think it's Deltona, Orange City. It's not DeBary. You do this wonderful daytime parade, which we love being a part of, and it's just important for our brand to get out there so people know that Rotarians are out there working in their communities to make it better. And we also adopt a road. We have a road in Deltona called Wolfpack Run. It's right by Deltona High. Our Eli is the chair of that program. Wave your hand, Eli, the bird nerd. They all know you here. And it's a wonderful program. This last picture that you're looking at, we just, again, where our club is really growing and people are engaging in Rotary. And this last cleanup we had, we must have had 20 people show up. Usually it's like 4 or 5 volunteers. So we need more roads to clean up, and we're working on that too. Okay, next. And then Me Strong. We did Me Strong 5K a few years ago when the 5 women who started that, Linda Ryan, they decided it was just too much. It was their 10-year. So they approached the Rotary clubs to help support that initiative. So we all came together as the West Volusia Rotary Clubs. I think we represent 3 cities, and DeLand has like 8 Rotary Clubs or 7. So we are small but really mighty. And with that said, we all come together and we volunteer and we really help keep that race going. If you haven't been to the Me Strong race, it's pretty spectacular, and it's what we're shooting for with our River Run as well. All right, and we welcome speakers every week. So when you come to Rotary, many times, if Pat is the speaker chair, we have a speaker every time, no business time at all. But needless to say, we always have a creative speaker. Sometimes it's the district governor. Sometimes it's about a local nonprofit that talks about the good work they're doing. Sometimes it's an environmental thing. Sometimes it's a Veterans Affairs thing, engineering thing. It's a wide range. So our meetings are Thursday mornings at 7:30 a.m. is breakfast. They start about 7:45, and they're usually done pretty close to 8:45. Unless I'm talking, might be just a couple minutes more, but no, we're done pretty quickly. But you definitely, I would encourage you to come out. We have great speakers. We also post on all of our social sites, so Facebook, Instagram. Please keep in touch with those, and I'm talking to the community. Please stay connected because you'll see some great speakers that come along, and it's no charge to be our guest. Yeah, it's coming. Thank you. As I spoke of earlier, it's the monthly club social. We do that once a month. It's usually the 4th Thursday of the month. And last, but certainly not least, Bill, thank you so much. And I think Bill brought some cards. And I tell you, one thing about being in a club that's been established is they will keep you in line. Like I have incredible reminders on hand all the time. But with that said, one of our best initiatives is our Pat and Ed Northey 5K, 10K River Run. All of you have participated. Mayor Chazé, Vice Mayor Butland, you both have rang the bell. Councilman Papalato, you have run every year. We're expecting you this year too. William Sell's been there. I think everyone has been to the race. It is the prettiest race in Central Florida. That's how I promote it. It is under the amazing canopies of Gemini Springs. It's along the water. It is just the prettiest 5K, 10K I've ever seen, and all the ones that I've had to volunteer at. Maybe not run so much, but help with charities and so forth. It truly is the prettiest. We had the honor a couple years ago of changing the name of that race to the Pat and Ed Northey in honor of all of her service to the community of Volusia County, also the passing of her late husband, Ed Northey. It grows every year. We had our biggest and best last year. We expect our biggest and best this year. So if you're a local organization, or you know a local organization, or you've got a small CPA, or you got a guy who details your car. We're trying to really encourage teams this year and get more teams out there and to really grow the race, because I don't think people realize what they're missing. The race also attracts great people from other communities, and I think that helps the economic influx here locally in DeBary too, because they're stopping and buying gas, they're getting something to drink, they're maybe patronizing one of your restaurants. Last year when I left the race, I had to do I'm an event planner by trade, so I had a consult with a client across the bridge in Lake Mary, Heathrow, and I think it was maybe at Peach Valley or something like that, the name of the restaurant is. I went in there and there was like 10 or 12 5K, 10K shirts that just finished our race. So we are looking for this to get on the map big time, and we are continuing to grow follow, and we're just grateful for you all participating every single year, and anything you can do, City Manager, to help get the message out to the community. We certainly do appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
And next we have Zach Shalafor presenting our annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended September 30, 2024. Welcome, Zach.
All right, good evening. Zach Shalafor, partner of James Moore and Company. Got another PowerPoint up here for you on the screen. First and foremost, as always, do want to thank the council for the opportunity to work with the city. Big thanks as well to your finance team, Liz, Wesley, and the crew. You guys have a great team that really helps make this possible. You know, there's a lot of work that we have to do as part of performing the audit, but it all starts with really the work that your finance team does. So as usual, I'll keep it pretty high level and brief, but more than glad to answer any questions, either as I'm going or at the end. So as we've talked about the last 2 years, the city did prepare this year for the third time what's called an ACFR, or Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. Summarized on the screen, really the additional items that go into this document, but essentially it's kind of an above and beyond level of reporting past what the state of Florida requires. For the third year now, the city will submit that to the Government Finance Officers Association for really evaluation for compliance with this program. Last year's document for the second year, we look at this 1 year in arrears based on that evaluation timeline. The city did receive the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting for the second year in a row related to that second submission to the GFOA. So did just want to highlight that. From an audit report perspective, this year, pretty much a clean slate all the way down. The 4 reports that we issue as part of the audit. The first is the audit report on the financial statements. We did issue an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion we can issue, and says that your financial statements are fairly presented, effectively that the numbers in here can be relied upon. The second report is on internal control and compliance. While it's not an internal control audit, there's separate engagements for that. As we're testing your financial transactions, we look at the key controls over your major financial processes. And if we come across any deficiencies in those processes or testing situations where we look at a transaction and something was missed from that internal control structure, not functioning as designed, those are the types of items that would be reported here. We had no modifications or comments reported in this report. And then the second 2 reports are just kind of a catch-all of other requirements from the state of Florida. The third one, what we call the Chapter 10.550, those are the state rules that we follow. Really a catch-all for any other comments, recommendations. If there's any financial concerns, we would have to kind of report those to the state here. No issues on that front. As I've noted the last couple years, we do what's called a financial condition assessment. There's 3 ratings the city can have, either favorable, inconclusive, or unfavorable. 95% of the time, probably, cities show up as inconclusive. You've either got to be very good and consistently trending very high, or pretty bad, to be either favorable or unfavorable. But again, the city in a very strong financial position, as we'll talk about on the next couple of slides. So your general fund balance, this is your assets minus liabilities, really your primary operating reserves in the city. You can see, almost very minimal change from last year to this year, about a $20,000 change on your total fund balance of about a little over $15.5 million. The bulk of that is in your what we call assigned and unassigned fund balance, which is really your unrestricted residual kind of reserves of the city. And as I do every year, I like to just put that in perspective to say, okay, we've got in those 2 buckets a little over $15 million relative to what we spent in the general fund. About a 86%, a little over 10 months in reserves. I do just kind of for a quick reference note that the GFOA recommendation is a bare minimum of 2 months. So as I kind of say every year, that's a bare bottom, the lowest you'd want to be when you factor in, the size of the city being subject to hurricanes and otherwise, not having, a lot of cities have a utility where you might have a lot of just extra cash sitting around when it comes to, what if we have a major hurricane where we're having to outlay 7 figures in response to those storms, and then of course wait for, hopefully not multiple years to get that money from FEMA, but it's never a quick turn. So that's one of the, many reasons why you want to have those reserves to kind of be protected, not just, make sure you've got the resources to get through and kind of get, a couple years down the road before you see those dollars come back into the city. And as we do every year, just kind of a quick look at your revenues by source. Your property taxes, of course, are a large component, but in this chart, that yellow chunk, about only 1/3 of the total revenues. The rest comes from your state revenues, any grants and other activities. And then on the expense side, as is pretty standard, that largest chunk relates to the public safety side of things, of course, on the contract basis for police and fire services here for the city. And just other highlights as you look at your capital projects funds, other what we call special revenue funds, where any restricted dollars, generally most of those, you have those in separate funds to really have the accountability and transparency over what came in, what was spent out of those funds, and what do we have left that does have those restrictions attached. A lot of our testing that we look at in those funds is saying, were the expenditures charged to those funds, legal, eligible uses of those dollars? We had no instances of any issues or, non-compliance from that perspective as well. And of those other funds, there's no negative fund balances or anything else, about a $7 million total between those restricted funds and some of your set-aside monies for future capital projects. So as I said, keep it pretty high level, but more than glad to answer any questions, and thank you all again for the chance to be here.
Thank you. We don't have any participation, do we, City Clerk? Is there anyone here on the dais that has a question they would like to ask our auditor? Isn't that a beautiful thing? I did visit with you about the audit, and I was impressed once again, Liz, with the soundness of the operation of your department and the high regard in which the auditors hold your skills and your department's skills. And I add that I also appreciate that you bring that kind of competence to our city and that we have consistently year after year audits with no findings. So thank you. And communicate that with your staff as well. Thank you. And thank you, Zach.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.
Yes. Next up, we have our consent agenda.
I'll make a motion. Sorry. Make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items 3, 4, 5, 6 of the agenda.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Pappalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Moving on to new business, the Finance Director is requesting the City Council approve Resolution Number 2025-02 to amend the fiscal year 2024 to 2025 budget. City Attorney, would you read Resolution Number 2025-02?
Yes, Mayor. Resolution 2025-02, a resolution of the City of DeBary, Florida, amending the fiscal year 2024 through 2025 budget, changing certain revenues and expenditures, and providing for an effective date.
Good evening, Liz Bauer, Finance Director for the City of DeBary. And tonight is the time we get to adjust the 25 budget carry forwards and reserves based on the audit that Zach just talked about. As you know, we do the budget in July timeframe, so we're estimating a lot of the beginning carry forward numbers. And also we have to estimate where projects are at the end of the year. So right now we're going to talk about the carry forward adjustments as well as some projects that needed to be brought into fiscal year 25. It's kind of small on the screen. It is in the packet also. I'm not going to talk about every entry on here, but I just wanted to talk about the general fund first, and that we're adding about $2.5 million to unassigned carry forward. However, we do need to bring forward quite a few projects. Some of the larger ones are $250,000 we're bringing forward to conclude the purchase of a Duke Energy property near Rob Sullivan Park. That's going through some other survey and legal matters, and before we can close on that. We are bringing forward the Safe Streets for All grant, as well as the expenditure for that. There was a match involved of $65,900. We have the Sun Trail FDOT grant that's being brought forward, which has the revenue piece and the expenditure piece. And on that one, the expenditure is slightly over the grant. We do have a fiscal year 24 CDBG grant for Bill Keller Park Pavilion coming into the new year, as well as a additional CDBG grant for Florence K. Little entrance improvements. One of the biggest things we have is Hurricane Milton costs. Hurricane Milton hit in October of 2024, and we are estimating about $1.4 million of expenditures here that we're adding to the fiscal year 25 budget. For our new fire department station that we're getting, they need a truck for the new deputy chief. And so we've been talking with them, and we're able to reduce the amount of equipment for the new fire engine just with better pricing estimates now that we're closer, to save $50,000 there, but also put in $81,000 for a new vehicle for this deputy chief. We're amending $170,000 for the work you approved on 218 Grand Vista. And with all these changes, we're able to add $374,000 to our assigned reserves for future capital needs. If you see this orange box here, I'm going to talk about that for a minute. This is a different thing than what we've done in the past. As you may know, we have the Fort Florida Road Bridge project that's funded by a grant, a $1 million grant from FDEP through St. John's Water Management District. And we have $500,000 of city money and $500,000 from FPL. However, all of this money for the project comes in after the fact. We have to spend the money, and when we have to request reimbursement. So what this does in Fund 310, where that project is, it can create a negative cash situation, which I don't want to see, and I don't think is a good way to run that fund. So I'm putting in $250,000 for general fund to loan to Fund 310. And the concept is at the end, Fund 310 will pay back general fund. A lot of times you've seen transfers in the budget, but this isn't the same thing. This is a loan to solve a cash flow issue in that capital project fund. Now we're going to move on to the stormwater fund. In the stormwater fund, we're adding about $1 million to the carry forward. But one of the biggest projects we are carrying forward also is the James Pond construction, which is in there at $775,000. And we're bringing forward two grants, the resiliency grant and the FDEP pipe relining grant. With those changes, we're able to add $263,000 to reserves. Now, for the next quite a few funds, what we're doing is just truing up the carry forward and reserves based on the operations of fiscal year 24. So that will cover the solid waste fund, the street lighting fund, Orlandia Heights, the tree fund, the franchise fee fund, the gas tax fund, mobility fees, park impact fees, public building impact fees, and the economic opportunity fund. At the bottom of this sheet is Fund 310, which is the fund that will get the loan from general fund to cover the cash needs on an ongoing basis. And there we're just truing up the numbers between what was spent in fiscal year 24 and what's remaining in 25. Fund 311 is the fire station fund, and again, we're just bringing it to the activity as far as the project got along in 24, as well as the Fort Florida Road improvements. As you guys know, that project is just about wrapped up, and we'll be able to settle that fund out soon. Fund 300 is our ARPA fund, and with this adjustment, it gets the numbers to where they need to be. And I wanted to mention also that I've updated the encumbrances. The yellow box is all the contracts that are encumbered. So basically, the ARPA funds are all spoken for now. They'll all be spent out once these contracts are completed. And with that, I take any questions, and we recommend to approve Resolution 2025-02 to amend the fiscal year 24-25 budget.
City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. Councilmember Sell, any questions or comments?
I just want to thank Liz for the detailed report. That's it, no question.
Councilmember Papalardo.
I like that intra-fund loan concept to make sure it goes back. That's great, especially, it's basically established, it's a timing issue, so that's great creative accounting. And thank you, as always, for the detail. It's very helpful, it keeps us on track, because I've seen some different things, so thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes, I just also want to echo appreciation for the way you keep our finances in line, so transparent, everything accountable, everything where it's supposed to be, especially since we've been getting so many grants and the ARPA funds that required such accountability that we didn't get into trouble with that at all. So thank you.
Vice Mayor Butland?
Thank you, Mayor. Again, like everyone, thank you very much and your team for all their efforts they put into it. I'm like Jim, I'm kind of a numbers person, so I love seeing the ins and outs and the creativity of the financing. The audit speaks for itself. I mean, I think we're all in good standing, and this is a great resolution to approve tonight.
I have one quick question. Most of these I understand because they're brought forward from previously approved projects. We have contracts that we previously approved. The one question I have has to do with the fund that had the money in for kitting out the fire truck, and we saved money because we did the smart thing, and then we have $81,000 for the new deputy chief's vehicle. Was the $81,000, I can't recall, did we as a council approve the deputy chief getting a new vehicle?
Well, this is a new deputy chief for...
Correct, but did the council approve the purchase of a vehicle for the deputy chief?
It was within the budget talks when we were talking about fiscal year 25, when the new station came on board, that we would need that, yes.
Okay, but did the council approve the purchase of a vehicle?
It was in the documentation, so it wasn't in the budget, if you're asking that. That's why it's being amended.
Can you tell me, City Manager, I get it that we save the money and it's most of what we need for the vehicle, and it may well be the smart thing to do. My question is, was the $81,000 purchase of a vehicle for the new deputy chief of the new fire, do we have council approval for that expenditure?
No, when you approve this here, you're approving that particular vehicle.
Okay, are there any other things that I didn't catch where approving the amendment will approve a purchase that we did not consider as a council?
No.
This is it?
Yes.
I'm glad I brought it up.
I'm glad you brought it up as well.
Okay, so council, as part of the new project, there is a new deputy chief that needs a vehicle. And it looked to me, I don't have it back in front of me, it looked to me like we saved $50,000 with our normal careful procurement out of the $300,000 we all discussed ad nauseum during the budget, which is good. That is 50 of the 81. But this is a vehicle that we did not consider and vote on. So I want to bring that to your attention as described now. When we approve this, if that's in fact what we do, we are, by doing so, approving the purchase of a vehicle. And the $31,000 that doesn't come from the savings on the rest of the fire truck equipment comes from reserves?
Basically, yes.
So instead of pulling $300,000 for the project, we're pulling $331,000. Is that correct, City Manager? Remember the long discussion during budget about the $300,000 coming from reserves?
No, we have a couple issues. Obviously, we have 87,000 that we are, as I explained to y'all individually, the 87,000 for the Mini X that we made a budget mistake on. When it was recommended in the budget, half was put into Public Works and half was put
Right.
into Stormwater.
Yeah.
And we made a mistake of only taking half of it by mistake. And when we went to go purchase the Mini X, it's actually double that price. It no longer met the business case scenario where we rent and we would save money over time. And so we elected to put that 87,000 back into the reserves.
So the 81,000 for this vehicle is the savings plus this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we put 87,000, we put 50,000 in from the savings from the fire station.
Right.
The fire chief needed the vehicle, which either we left out of the discussion, et cetera. And so, yes, I approved that to be put into here for your approval.
Okay, I just wanted, and in the future, if we have something that clearly has not been approved by the council, I think it ought to be delineated before we do the vote. But in this case, we've had the discussion, and so I'm happy to entertain a motion on this resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution, what is that number? 2025-02, amending the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Second.
I'm going to go with Papalardo this time. Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. The next item on our agenda is the city manager is requesting the city council approve resolution number 2025-03 for the formation, organization, and operation of the DeBerry Foundation, a Florida not-for-profit corporation formed exclusively for charitable and educational purposes. City manager, are you going to I would like you to read the resolution number 2025-03, city attorney.
Yes, Mayor. Resolution number 2025-03, a resolution of the City of DeBerry, Florida, approving the creation of the DeBerry City Foundation, approving its bylaws, providing authorization of city staff, and providing an effective date.
Thank you. City manager, are you presenting?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just to do a little briefing, those, as you know, we discussed it, this here, we brought a draft on January the 8th. The council gave us feedback, but just for general purposes, for those who might have missed that meeting, just a little bit about the DeBerry Foundation. Obviously, the DeBerry Foundation is going to be a 501c3 organization, and it's going to foster a sense of community involvement, preservation of local history, contribution to continue the growth of private funded community projects. And so the focus areas would be preserving the history of City of DeBerry, civic philanthropic projects.
Yeah.
Directly contributing to community pride and spirit, and financially sponsoring new initiatives for city programs, the civic, the sporting, and the art. And so the purpose there is a solicitation and acceptance of gifts, donations, pledges of funds from interested persons, organizations. And we've had a tremendous amount of inquiries, particularly with the purchase of Alexander Island, folks that want to see how they can contribute to the benefit or to improve our parks and recs and everything else. And so you see in here that obviously there's a lot of wide open opportunity, the acquisition, construction, installation, and maintenance of personal memorials. Some of the things we talked about is honorary benches that they could do, historical relevant markers and displays. We even talked about bricks at Memorial Park to honor our veterans. And so there's just a number of different programs that are available depending on the contributions and the donations made to this particular organization. And if folks think that this is kind of unusual to have a foundation, actually quite most of your cities have foundations. And so basically, to put this together, obviously we've been drafting the bylaws, but to construct the board is the chairman, vice chairman, treasurer, secretary, and 3 board members. And the city manager will be the management sponsor, just to guide the organization. Members would be the ad hoc committee members, and then staff as required, legal counsel, and possibly an executive director upon when they can afford one. The term limits are a limited 2 terms, and they're 3-year terms. We did in the bylaws clarify and staggered them so that there's some of them that are going to be 2 years, some of them are going to be 3 years their first term, and then 3 years for their second term. But the eligibility is they're residents of DeBary. The majority of the board will need to be that. That's since there's 7 members, 4 of them need to be residents of DeBary. And then any non-residents, they would need to be a DeBary small business owner, a corporate representative or regional representative for a corporation serving DeBary, an elected official that's also serving DeBary. And there's generally only 2, there are 2 or 3. There's the state rep, there's the state senator, and obviously a congressman as well. Those are really kind of the 3 elected officials that are actually serving DeBary. And the city council members and DeBary city staff employees are prohibited from serving on the board. So based upon your feedback, we revised the bylaws, and these are the changes that we made. We did add clarification to Article 7, Section A, which has to deal with the board. We also clarified that also paragraph 4B regarding the staggered terms, and we just itemized them out, so it made it very clear. Article 9, we removed. That was emeritus members. We all have concluded that we didn't want that. And then so I substituted Article 9 with gifts and contributions, and we added the ability to purchase or receive land for fundraising purposes, maintaining or preserving sensitive land, or conserving land to prevent development. And this is goes into what Councilmember Pappalardo brought up was the land bank and the availability that if they do get donations from individuals, they can get donations of land from individuals. They can get donations to where they from individuals who want to conserve a specific parcel and prevent it from being developed. So there are a number of different ways that this could happen. Article 14 had a paragraph in there about gifts and contributions, and I moved that to Article 9. And then the records for this particular organization shall be provided to the city clerk. And so these are the revisions that we made to the particular bylaws. And so going forward with the established timeline, if the council to approve the resolution tonight, 2025-03, and then right after this, if you do that, then we'll select an initial chairman, and he's here tonight. And the city manager, the chairman, and the city attorney will create the organization. And Kurt said he's got a pretty good tax attorney to help us through the process. We'll create the corporation through the state of Florida, and then get the FEI number through the federal government, and then apply for our nonprofit status for this organization. With that, then we'll establish the bank account, and then we'll advertise. In the meantime, we'll advertise for the board positions. One thing that the council needs to decide tonight, that there are 6 board positions left if you approve the chairman, and there's only 5 council members. So you need to decide in the agenda item. I just put the mayor to have 2 appointees and everybody else 1, but again, y'all can decide on how you want to divvy up the board member approvals. And then we'll bring back those advertisements to the board, to the council, and then you can approve the positions. Once you approve the positions, then the board and the foundation will operate as an independent organization on its own. And so there's a little timeline down there. We think that obviously the initial foundation meeting should be held before July 2025. The IT or the website, the planning, the marketing efforts, et cetera, will happen during that time. The initial chairman's briefing to the city council should be no later than the third quarter of 2025. That gives us about 60 to 90 days to get our nonprofit approval. And that's when I think we'll be able to get those. And so if you have any questions or concerns, you can ask them, and we'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
City Clerk, do we have public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, Councilmember Sell, do you have questions or comments?
No, this is great. No questions.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Thank you for Article 9, the land bank language. I feel very strongly about that one. I think we can leverage it with some other projects I have in mind that I'll save for when we start talking strategic planning. And I'm very optimistic about this organization, so thank you for everyone's effort on this.
Just a little more detail on Article 9. Several things that they cannot, they can partner with the city to purchase a property if they want to. So, for example, if there is a particular property, the city could put half, foundation could put half. There's also a provision there that they cannot compete with the city. And so if we're both trying to purchase a particular property, they can't compete. So that's a little bit more detailed than what I provided on the screen, but I thought since you brought it up, I thought I'd provide a little bit more detail in there.
Thank you. That's important clarification. I appreciate that because obviously it should work in conjunction if we're going to try to achieve those goals. So thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you. I'm glad to see that we've gotten to this point since our last discussion, kind of ironed out all the details, and I've seen how much benefit nonprofits can provide for a city and municipality. So I'm excited to see this get put together. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just another comment for nonprofits. I mean, they can apply for grants. They can apply for ECHO. This ECHO cycle, I'll be at the county council meeting on March 18th for our pickleball courts there. We are the only city that applied for ECHO this time around. And there are 3 nonprofits that have applied. And so good for them. And so this organization can apply for grants and everything else, just like any other nonprofit.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Thank you, Mayor. This has been one of my initiatives going way back when we talked about what do we want to do for the city. So I'm very excited to have this come forth today and get this started, because I think we're a year past what we anticipated, but I'm very excited to have it go. So I'm all for it.
Okay. And I likewise am supportive of the effort and appreciate all the work that has gone into this. And I look forward to the date when we get our 501c3 and we can set the organization on its own path with its own governance. I think that will be a move forward. And as I have said to the city manager and reiterated to the individual we'll consider next as a possible first chairman of the board, as I said during our hearing in January, I am happy to provide $1,000 upfront prior to the organization having its 501c3, because I'm not concerned about the tax implications for myself, and that should help provide the seed money to get from what can be done immediately, which is incorporate and get an EIN and open a bank account, so that the next steps with the securing the 501c3 can be promptly moved ahead on. That offer stands, and as soon as those 2 things, which I can do in an hour from a computer, except I then have to go get a bank account, we can move forward quickly on that, in my view.
Thank you for that, Mayor.
Well,
Appreciate it.
I'm happy to do it, and I think that there does need to be some seed money before it is a 501c3. So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve Resolution 2025-03.
Second.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Which brings us to agenda item number 9. The city manager is requesting the city council approve James W. Old to be the DeBerry Foundation Incorporated's first chairman of the board. City manager, would you like to present?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Jim, thank you for being here. Just a little background story for those who did not know. I'm going to call you James Old. How about that? To be formal. He attended our Citizens Academy. They moved to DeBerry about 2 or 3 years ago, and they attended the Citizens Academy because they wanted to participate in our community. So he's up in our office one day, and he's looking for something to do because he's bored to death. And so I said, what is your background? And boy, you can see his background here with foundation, nonprofits, veteran, and everything else. And I said, I got a great project for you to work on. And so he just exceeded all expectations on researching all the foundations, researching all the bylaws. He benchmarks to get some of the best ones. And we came up with a draft of the bylaws. He worked tirelessly getting that done. I know he's been working tirelessly with all the other stuff that will go forward. And so he's really been a champion to the city on this endeavor here. And I think it's just a real tribute to him that we nominate, and I'd like to nominate James W. Old to be DeBerry's Foundation's first chairman.
Okay. Are there any is there any public participation?
No, ma'am, there is not.
Okay. I think that we missed one thing with the prior vote. We can fold it into this discussion, and that is we did not decide how the other 6 members, should we confirm James Old, be done. And so with your questions and comments, could you weigh in on that element of this project, as well as whether or not you have any questions or comments in reference to James Old being the DeBerry Foundation's first chairman of the board? Councilmember Sell.
James is the man.
Okay. And what is your thought about the first 6 members that would be, we would invite applications and then we would select 6. How should we select the 6?
I'm fine picking one.
Okay, that's you. How do we get the other 5?
I thought you were picking 2.
The idea is you have to, that was one suggestion, but there was no decision. So are you comfortable with the mayor picking 2?
Yes.
And the others picking 1?
Yes.
Because if somebody else wants, like seat 2 or something to do it, I'm cool with that too. Okay. Councilmember Papalardo.
Thank you, Mr. Old. This is, I'm very thankful that you're willing to step up and found this, be the first chairman rather, and I hope you're ready. It's going to be a lot, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I would approve such an arrangement. Mayor gets 2.
Okay. Councilmember Stevenson.
Thank you. Yes, we were all I was very impressed with your resume last time. Sounds like everybody's on board. I'm excited to get this going, and I would also be fine giving the mayor a second vote. This is only the one time that we appoint it, so it's not.
Yes, it's over and done. Yeah.
Yep, you've got it.
You don't want it to be like seat 3?
Well, I mean, if it's not too complicated, we could do it. We could do everybody votes for the last one, or some sort of ranked choice of some sort, but I'm also fine with the mayor.
It may be simpler that way. Yeah. Vice Mayor Butlin.
I want to thank Jim for being willing. I work with 3 other nonprofits. Believe me, I know what you're up against. And I thank you for taking that position on. So I have no problem appointing you as the first chairman of the board. And I also don't have a problem with Mayor with you picking 2.
Okay. I add my appreciation for your work thus far. I would be very happy, given your qualifications, which we reviewed at length in the prior discussion, to have you be the first chairman of the board. There's no one quite as familiar with the entire concept as of this date than you are, and I'm very grateful that you're willing to undertake that on behalf of the city and the idea that we would have a foundation. And I am fine with the selecting 2 and the other council members selecting 1 for the first slate of directors. And so I would entertain a motion and City Attorney, is it appropriate to appoint him and also itemize the selection process, or do we need to do that in two different things?
One motion's fine, Mayor.
All right, thank you. So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve James W. Old to be the DeBerry Foundation, Inc.'s first chairman of the board, and that we will select one per council, and the mayor has two to select for the positions of the rest of the board.
Second.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sells?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Congratulations. Now we come to the part for member reports. Councilmember Sells, do you have anything to report?
I have nothing nice to say, so I'm not going to say anything.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Not particularly eventful, but last week I was invited to attend Leadership Stetson. Got to have a lot of FaceTime with administrations and the president, trying to find some things to get the school involved in the city, hopefully.
Oh, that would be an interesting idea. Councilmember Stevenson?
Thank you. On February 25th, I attended the Volusia County School Board meeting because they had an item on their agenda to respond to an unsolicited letter of an intent to purchase property over at Buckley. And I don't know if you guys got the emails that I also got. It was about a dozen emails, residents telling us that they wanted a school and that they wanted our council to cooperate with the school board. So I went to the school board, and I think that I was pretty open in wanting for our entities to work together. One of the things that I pointed out is that there used to be municipal committees where every city had an appointee to the committee, and the committee members would meet with Volusia County School Board staff on a regular basis, talk about the growth and changes in their city. There was also, I believe, teachers that were paid for that committee. And those committees ended during COVID. And although I have tried multiple times to reach out and see what's happened with them, basically the answer I've gotten is that they haven't restarted. So I urged or asked for the school board to consider bringing those committees back. As a former appointee for that committee, I really feel kind of bad that we didn't have that communication, and we're experiencing such difficulties. They did end up moving forward with that item, not exactly to sell to the people that had made the unsolicited offer, but they were going to look at options to still sell that property. They did still feel that it was too expensive to remediate and that it didn't meet DOE standards. I did voice a couple of opposing views in comparing Spring Vista with 1792 versus the Buckley site, 1792, but wasn't enough to sway the vote that night. I am still hoping that we could continue discussions and especially bring back the committees, because we do need another school in DeBerry, and I'm just not sure how our entity is supposed to be moving forward on that. I guess question for you, Carmen, if I may, for real quick. Bringing back Spring Vista or Springview as a property, is that even possible after we've already said it's not consistent?
When you make a decision on a comp plan, typically it's not brought back for 6 to 12 months afterwards. However, I'm not sure how much can change from the facts that was presented before. So that's, but typically, and maybe Kurt can answer this a little bit more effectively, comp plan decisions are pretty based upon the facts that were presented. I don't see how much changing from that, from your decision, unless you change your mind on if it's inconsistent with the comp plan now, it would be inconsistent in the future.
And it would have to be the school board that brought that to us again in order for us to open that discussion again. We couldn't bring it up to them, or I don't know, how does that work? Because they're asking for our cooperation, and I'm just not sure where that happens from our point of view.
Well, it certainly could be initiated.
By our side or by their side?
Yeah.
Okay. Going back to the pump vibrations, over there that were brought up with the pump during public participation. I think that the timer was a reasonable suggestion, but I'd be concerned that during hurricanes or weather events that the timer would override the pump somehow and not allow it to come on when it needs to come on. So I'd be concerned about that. I'd also bring up that there's all sorts of other random vibrations that happen in town, and are we going to start trying to remediate vibrations from I-4, vibrations from the power plant, vibrations from the railroad tracks? You know, I mean, everybody in DeBary is going to be saying my pots are rattling and asking for us to put in these seismic meters, which, or whatever. So I'm not sure how much we can remediate that, but the timer sounds reasonable as long as we can be sure that it's not going to impair the functionality of the pumps when we need them to turn on.
Well, I think we're just trying to analyze it right now to see, it's a subject matter we haven't ventured into. And we're really trying to find and learn a little bit more about, one, what is it going to take? We don't even, we had the staff meeting there, we don't even know what a seismic analysis study would cost, and how extensive it would be and what the process would be. And so we're still, once we get a consultant, we will get a kind of scope of work and to kind of analyze and see how extensive this endeavor is going to be.
And then the last item for public participation I just wanted to briefly follow up on was the Orlandia Heights Road Board. It's a private road, and they have a special assessment through their taxes. Do they have the ability or a mechanism to get a loan like other private roads have done for, like, getting the fresh water, potable water into their neighborhood?
I don't know if they have the ability to borrow money. I'll have to take a look at the ordinance to see if they have the ability to borrow money. They do have, they charge $300 a year. They can, I think by statute, can go up to $500 a year. But you know, that particular pond there, and I didn't mention there, it could be a table, a water table lake. And you can pump it all day long and not move the water at all, because you'd be pumping the entire city.
Right.
And so I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna leave it up to them to see, but I don't think a residential neighborhood improvement district can borrow money.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree that pumping would probably not solve the problem as a spring-fed lake, because it's just going to keep refilling. I do remember seeing that property during a previous storm that she did try pumping, and she was pumping for months with no real change.
One comment, though. I'm not sure if it's a spring-fed lake. It is a water table. It appears to be a water table lake.
Okay.
There's no evidence right now that it's an actual spring.
Okay.
And so there's a difference between a spring-fed lake and a water table lake. And so most of our lakes in DeBary are water table lakes with no outfall. And this has no outfall. I mean, it has no place to go. And so, but most of them are water table lakes, and the rise and fall of these particular lakes are really directly related to the water table.
All right, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Thank you, Mayor. Couple things. I attended the opening day for the WVAC Baseball League, which was so exciting. Lots of kids, oh my gosh. And I look at the little ones that are in strollers and thinking, this is the 5 years from now group that's coming up. So very excited about that. I also attended the DeBary Volunteer Firemen's Association Pancake Breakfast, which is probably one of the better ones that they've had, or more attended that they've had. I tortured myself at the State of the County. And we also attended the Safety House from Florida Public Utilities, which is an awesome building. If you're into all the gauges and gadgets and hoses and testing, that's where you want to go see what it looks like. And then last week, I also attended the Crystal Apple Awards put out by the DeLand Chamber, and did that. There's a bunch of stuff coming up in the next couple weeks, and April's going to be busy with Arbor Day, hazard waste, and other stuff like that. So we'll bring those dates closer as we get closer to the events.
Yes. I also have attended a number of events recently. while juggling some other demands on my time. I've been to the TPO. I did attend the Citizens Academy last evening to speak about the mayor's role in DeBary. I did provide remarks at the ribbon cutting of Safety Town at Florida Public Utilities. It is a great addition. It's the only one here in Central Florida, a training facility for first responders in the fire management community. And it's quite an impressive facility with a lot of scenario-based buildings to train firefighters throughout the region. And they also presented a donation to the Fire Chiefs Association to provide a scholarship for a young individual seeking to join that field, $10,000, and that was nice to see them plugging in for, that will cover scholarships for 2. I was at the Crystal Apple Awards as well and attended the pancake breakfast. City Manager?
I got a few things, Mayor. Volusia County called the other day, and our representative for the opioid board needs reconfirmation. I guess there's a term limit, I guess. Not a term limit. There's a
term.
Yeah.
There's a term.
And so just to expedite it, I talked to Councilmember Paparotto if he wants to serve again. He said he did, and so I don't know if the council wants to go ahead and reappoint him.
We can do consensus. We cannot do a vote.
Yeah.
If consensus appoints him, we can do consensus. Is there anyone who has a problem with reappointing? I think that's consensus.
Yeah. Also, Jim has asked a couple times for an alternate, just in case that he can't go. Is there somebody that wants to be his alternate for the opioid board?
How often do they meet?
It's
Is it
less
sporadic?
than, it's roughly once a quarter. It's at the Daytona Airport.
Okay.
And there's, you'll be evaluating grants if I'm not doing those myself. It's really just for the one-offs if I, like this past meeting, there was an interim meeting for a special case for 3 grant applicants that we permitted to be considered that previously were not able to be considered. I was unable to because my kids had an appointment. So the alternates are encouraged by the board right now. We were seeking differences in backgrounds, which I don't think we've had a whole lot of success with that yet, which is not unique to our city. Many cities do not have particular, there's a lot of similarities in backgrounds, let's put it that way. So just for that off chance that I'm unable to attend, an alternate would be much appreciated.
Would you be willing to serve?
William Sell, I think.
William Sell?
Yeah, I've been to the airport a couple times, so.
Would you be willing to serve as an
Yeah, I
alternate?
can do the alternate thing.
Is there anyone else who would like to be considered?
I
or
don't have a problem one way or the
Consensus that William could be the backup? Okay. Consensus that William Sell will be the backup.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Second thing is this is March, and now we're starting the budget season. And I wanted to just to get just a kind of guidance on how you want to pursue. Typically, we do some strategic planning, and then we get into budgeting on after that. So wanted to see what kind of level of strategic planning you want to get into, or you want to go to full bore strategic planning and do a full workshop, or you want to do a discussion item and do a just keep compiling our strategic initiatives on there. I know there's probably about, I'm going to guess, 5 to 6 additional ones since last year that we have discussed individually. And I can present those, and then you can add to what you want to add. That's a good process to do, and we can do that as a discussion item on one of our council meetings, so we don't take too much of your time. But I know there's probably 5 or 6 additional ones I've heard through our discussions, and wanted to see how you want to proceed with a strategic plan, or do you want to start from scratch and go full bore, or do you want to, just start with what we got and we can add to and reprioritize if you want.
My inclination, and then I will seek consensus and other input, is that one of the benefits of having stability on the council, where we have the same 5 people for what will be 6 years, is that we can set priorities early and methodically review them each year, say what it was we achieved and cross those off, what it is we need to add and seek agreement as to what should be added, and then continue this reporting on our progress towards these goals. So I am happy with having that be the approach, which would be a discussion during a meeting and a revision for the priorities while recognizing what we have already achieved. But if anyone felt that they wanted to start again, that's certainly another way to approach it. But if we had a council with two new representatives, I would see a stronger case for starting over than I do with this council, where we've had good consensus as to the next things that we ought to be working on. And then we've been able to recognize where we worked on them and achieved it or got halfway or whatever. So I'm comfortable with that.
I'll
But
second that.
okay, we're not doing a vote, we're doing consensus. But I would ask for any additional input if you have additional thoughts.
Let's use the stability while we can.
Okay.
My only comment would be if we could be a little bit more selective, if there are items we can remove that perhaps have fallen out of favor, don't seem particularly likely in the moderate term.
I think that we actually did remove one or two in the last such review, and I'm very comfortable with that as well. Sometimes events eclipse a goal, and we have to move on with what's real.
I expect we may just do some shuffling of prioritization, because there are a couple of things, like I was thinking about the bright green crosswalks. I feel like that's like time to strike on that one. So
Okay.
just not to.
But that could be accommodated in the kind of discussion that seems to be the thought. I think that's consensus.
Okay. Just a couple updates. Alexander Island bids are in. We got 2 bids, top-notch organizations. And if we do a March 19th meeting, we'll bring those bids. And the bids are not for the entire project. They're to get to guaranteed maximum price, just like we did with Wharton Smith. It was about $53,000. If you remember, with Wharton Smith, to get to a guaranteed maximum price, you approved that. And then you approved, when they came back by contract, you approved the guaranteed maximum price. So it's just going to be the same process. If we bring it back to March 19th, it will be just approve this particular company to get to a guaranteed maximum price. So around the same dollar amount. So it's not anything extraordinary. Just one update: the National Weather Service, and we'll be putting this out here shortly. There's a fire weather watch for tomorrow. It'll start tomorrow morning and go to tomorrow evening. So please nobody burn tomorrow with the high winds, and we're fairly dry, as we hadn't had a whole lot of rain since January. So make sure that, at least for the public, tomorrow will be under fire weather watch tomorrow. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. City Attorney, do you have something to report?
I do not, Mayor and Council. Thank you.
Hearing no additional business, we stand adjourned. All right.